I think the one decision that law firm owners delay for too long in making is hiring real leadership in their law firm. And here's what I mean by that. What you see is when law firms begin to grow, especially in the divorce and family law space, it's very predictable in what they do. They grow their support staff to a large enough size where then they have somebody that they usually call something like an office manager. And that's a person who's kind of overseeing the staff, running billing, and handling basic financial operations, and that's fine. But at some critical point, and it's usually around half a dozen lawyers or so, you really do have to hire somebody in a true leadership role, and most often that would be somebody that I would call something like a director of operations. We had this exact same struggle in New Mexico when that was the first firm I started. We got to a point where we needed somebody to help oversee, because I was still in court too, overall strategic operations, what our expansion strategy was, looking at things like ARs, just the overall leadership of the firm, and somebody who's your right-hand person to help execute your vision and make sure that the ethos that you want is communicated. So that's another big thing you have to be aware of. Please remember this. If you do hire somebody to come in as a real leader who's calling the shots and help leading the team when you're off doing what it is you're doing, especially if you still have a caseload, you need to make sure that your whole vision, your ethos, why you do what you do, gets communicated down to the team, that it's your ethos and not the ethos of the person that you hired into that position. Now, most of you will probably say, wow, geez, I can't afford that. That's going to be too expensive. And there is merit in that. So what I have seen other firms do is hire a fractional leader. Some people will hire a fractional COO, for example, and that simply means that this is a high-level COO or someone in that type of position, but they're only spending a fraction of their time leading your team because your team's not that big after all, and so you're only paying a fraction of the cost. I'm not sure that's super effective because one of the things we noticed was we really needed this person on site. And so while this may seem like an expense that you can't shoulder, you do need to try to find a way. That's what I had to do. I finally just had to find the money to do it because I knew that even though I couldn't really afford it, I wasn't going to be able to take the next step if I didn't have a person in this position. So when we finally hired that person, I think pretty shortly after that, we hired 2 or 3 more attorneys onto the team, which had seemed impossible before that person came on. So not only to pay their salary, we had a lot more revenue because of that hire.